Hi everyone, this is going to be my review for The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. It's a Disney movie. It's rated PG. Simple summary, it's based off of The Nutcracker, which is that famous short story that the famous ballet is based off of. This is about a young girl. She lost her mother. It doesn't really tell you how long ago, but you assume it's about a year ago. Anyway, they lost her mother, and Christmas Eve, her father gives her a gift, which is this egg that has, she can't unlock it. And so that evening, it's Christmas Eve, and they go to her godfather's place, which is Doppelmeyer, that's what it is. And he basically leads her to the key, which happens to be in this fantastical realm, land that has 4 realms in it. And it seems like there's 4 realms, 3 of them are united, but one's not, and that's like the realm of amusements. And she finds out that her mother was like the queen of all of this land, and that there's a war brewing, and she's like the key. She has to find the key that will turn on this machine that will make an army. And then there's a double cross going on, and then she finds out that, she's like 13, 14 in the film, and she just, comes to realize that all she needs is herself, and she can take care of things and be her mother and save the realms, which she does, and then she reunites with her family back in the real world. Alright, so that was the summary. Now here's the review. This movie was horrible. This movie was really, really bad. I walked into this movie thinking it was like, okay, they're rebooting the Alice in Wonderland movies. They're just doing a new story, but it's going to be like the same thing. Young female lead in this fantastical, beautiful world, and she has to save it somehow. It's that same formula. And it's based off of a famous story that everyone knows, but the movie failed so bad. Where do I begin? Okay, so first of all, there's no heart in this story. There's no, the plot is really weird and mixed up. It's kind of hard to follow, and there's no logic. There's absolutely no logic in this, or even a good plot. Now, they throw this girl into this world, and they explain, oh, well, your mother was this inventor, and she invented this machine, and she created this fantastical realm and gave us all, your mother gave us life. But still, that world, this fantastical world, land, existed somewhere before, but they don't explain how the mother found it in the first place. And did she just take a bunch of toys and make them live? That wasn't explained. And that's the many things that's not explained in this movie. And you're just supposed to assume and just go with it, but it doesn't explain anything. And then it leads you to, it goes and said, okay, well, we were 4 united realms, and then there's this ballet she's watching that's supposed to explain to young Clara about why the 4th realm, which is the realm of amusements, is turned against everyone. But the ballet doesn't explain it, and they don't explain it either. They don't explain what happened whatsoever and why this realm is against everybody else. They just say it's bad. And you're like, okay, but why? And then and then they keep on saying that, oh, Clara's mother was the queen and she saved us all. How did she save you all? How? You don't explain that either. And then it goes on to tell you, oh, well, you're still these 2 regents, which is the realm of amusements, and the Sugar Plum Fairy, which are they rule over 2 different realms, are against each other. And they start saying, well, you're still mad at her because of what happened in the past, but they never explain what happened in the past. They don't explain anything whatsoever, and you're just kind of lost, and you're like, I don't understand why and what. There was, again, no clear story, no plot, and there's really no heart in the story, and that really just, okay. And then what else really annoyed me in this story is that, and Disney is starting to do this. They'll take a very familiar story, and I'm going to use Alice in Wonderland for an example, and they'll try to make their own story. So Alice in Wonderland, when you first watch it, I'm thinking I'm going to watch Alice in Wonderland, which is based off the book. But when you're watching the first Alice in Wonderland, you're like, okay, it's probably going to be just like the first Disney movie, which was based off the book really, really close. but they changed the plot. They changed their plot, and they threw in stuff from The Looking Glass into Alice in Wonderland. And so when they came out with Alice Through the Looking Glass, I'm like, what plot are you coming from? Okay, we're just going to make it up by ourselves. And so, very similar with this one. So, The Nutcracker is based off a short story, and the short story takes place in Russia. So, why is this story taking place in London? Very confused why you wouldn't want to place it in the original story of origin, which is Russia. But, okay. But the general story is that Clara is given a Nutcracker toy on Christmas Eve, and it breaks, and so she takes it to her uncle Doppelmayr, and he helps fix it, and then she wants to watch over it at night to make sure it's okay, and then she finds out that it comes to life in the middle of the night, and it's starting to fight the king rat, which is against, I guess, the rest of the Nutcrackers, and that's what the ballet is about. It's like this, war between the Rat King and his army and the toys. And she is kind of the one that kind of helps guide the army. And there is like a fantastical realm, and there's a sugar plum fairy and all that stuff that's in there. But so Disney decides to take that story and do that whole turnaround where it wasn't a surprise when we found out that, okay, this is a spoiler. It was no surprise that the bad guy was going to be the Sugar Plum Fairy. I knew that from the beginning because how you set it up. But why would you go off your base? I understand taking the base material and expanding it, but why wouldn't you make the story the same? Why would you twist it and make it all different? And it's that same formula. Young girl, fantastical, beautiful land that's visually pretty to look at, and she has to save the day. It barely worked in Alice in Wonderland. It failed miserably in this one. I mean, the last time Disney did like a fantastical land based off literature was The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. All of the movies were fantastic, and it was really like closely like to the book. But they just missed it here, and it was really bad. And my final critique is there's a part when they're starting to turn all of these tin soldiers to life. And it just reminded me of the Santa Claus 2, when they make the fake Santa Claus, and then he starts making the fake soldiers, because they looked almost the same, and they acted almost the same, and it was almost a very similar plot line right there. And actually, it's really funny because in the Santa Claus 2, there's all these other mythical creatures, mythical, like, they rule those lands. And the other three regents from the other realms looked kind of just like the Santa Claus 2. It's kind of like they took Alice in Wonderland in the Santa Claus 2 and mixed them together. And that's what you get. But you get hardly any plot, hardly any story, and it just visually looks pretty. Alright, so that is my review. So out of 45 movies I've seen so far this year, I'm ranking this at 36. I mean, I would much rather see Miracle Season, which had a lot of heart, had story. I enjoyed that one a lot more than this one, but I would much rather see this Nutcracker before I see the 1517 to Paris again. I was slightly more entertained with this one than that one, but still overall a bad movie. So if you're looking for good holiday movies coming up, I would just skip this one. I'm hoping that The Grinch will be that good holiday story, and I'm hoping